All right. So, welcome to the Way to Bee Academy, and I want to thank you guys for coming here today because we're going to do something that's going to be so much fun for me. So, who do we have here? First of all, David with the beard. Give me a little background about what's your experience with bees in the first place?
I'm fairly experienced with bees, depending on how you look at it. Fred did set me up with a hive last year. We had a little hardship over the winter, and I did lose them. But I've been coming up to Fred's house, I'd say through the summer, at least every few months, just to kind of check up and see what's going on and try to learn some things from him. So I have a very baseline knowledge.
Okay, and you obviously trust me.
I do, completely.
So, what do you think we're going to do here today?
We're going to take my vitals,
Yeah?
and you're going to allow a bee to sting my forearm.
Oh, so we're here to be stung by a bee.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So I'm glad that even knowing that, you came out anyway. And we're not playing games here. We're going to know stuff. So we're doing a baseline too. So to your left, we have Bethany. Describe a little bit what your medical qualifications are.
Well, I started out as an x-ray tech, so I did that for about 10 years. And then I went back to school and got my degree as a physician assistant.
So now you're physician assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's the next level up from that?
Doctor.
So you're, would we call it, for those who don't know what a PA is that above a nurse?
It
Where
would
do
be
you fit?
above a nurse,
Yeah.
kind of equivalent to like a nurse practitioner. A lot of people know nurse practitioners more than
Okay.
PAs. But
So you do a lot of things that a medical doctor would do.
yeah.
Okay, and the reason I brought you here today is because we're going to put David over here through some level of stress. And we want people to understand that when they're talking about bee stings, a lot of beekeepers say, yeah, I got stung 20 times in the yard yesterday and things like that. Also, there are people that get stung by bees as a form of therapy. And there are some people that when they get stung, because they've been stung so many times, they have no reaction at all. So, and that's what I want to address today. First of all, if they're having no reaction at all, what we really mean is they're walking around like normal, they're doing all the things they're supposed to be, but I think beneath the surface, there might be some stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what kinds of things, if somebody suffered an exposure or an injection of a protein venom like that from a honeybee, what would we expect to change as far as David's baseline vitals?
His heart rate might go up. I would expect blood pressure, just because if there's a lot of pain involved, blood pressure is directly related to pain. So if there is pain involved, his blood pressure might rise. If any stress, pain, those type of things all make blood pressure
Okay.
rise. So
And we want to be safe.
yeah.
So what would be an alarm? In other words, what kind of a reaction could he get that would make us concerned on the medical end of things?
If he had a severe reaction, I would expect if his throat starts to close or he has severe swelling, we would see his oxygen levels decrease drastically, especially if he's not able to breathe.
How would we measure that?
We have a little pulse oximeter here that you can put over the finger, and it tells your oxygen levels.
Nice. So we're going to get to that. We're going to show each of those things up close while we
Okay.
get David's baseline. So I want to ask a little bit about your history in being stung. Have you been stung before?
I've been stung many times.
Yeah. So many times in a concentrated time frame or spread out?
Once in a very concentrated time frame, decades ago. Probably
Decades ago?
25, 30 years ago, over 30 years ago.
Oh, tell the story.
I stepped in a ground beehive. I was stung probably 100
Okay,
times.
you just said something that I want the listeners to really clear up. Ground beehive.
A swarm of bees that were subsurface.
Okay, so any chance those were wasps?
I don't recall.
I'm
Very
gonna
well
say
done.
those were wasps. We don't get attacked by it. It's not honeybees,
Right.
we know that
No,
for sure,
correct,
right?
correct.
So ground bees that would be in a social collection, like a nest, right? Those would actually be hornets, wasps.
Gotcha.
So yellow jackets most often because we hate them the most. So what happened to you when you were stung? Like what kind of reactions did you have?
It was just painful.
Just painful.
Yeah, there was. Now I don't know because I didn't have a pulse oximeter or whatever.
Well, that's not a pain meter.
But No, just pain.
So, and what was your age
severe-
then?
I was young. I was probably 6 or 7 or 8.
Okay, let's get closer to now. Have you been stung by a honeybee while you were attending your hive?
Only once or twice, actually.
Okay, so how'd that go? What was going on when you got stung? What were you doing?
Well, I made the mistake of not trusting the bee, and it's like a natural human reaction to swat. So
Okay.
instead of continuing on with what I was doing, it was, that human reaction thing, and I went like this 2 or 3 times, and then I got stung on the side of the head.
Okay, were you wearing any beekeeper
No.
protection?
No.
Okay.
No, I was doing something around the hive itself.
But it was a honeybee for sure.
For sure.
Okay, and so what happened at the site? So you were stung where?
Right somewhere around the temple.
Right around the temple.
Mhm.
So what did you feel? What were the symptoms?
Kind of like a sting followed by a little bit of a warm feeling, almost
Okay.
a real light throbbing.
And some firmness maybe?
Yep, and that was
Okay.
it.
And how long did that last?
I don't remember. It was a relatively short period of time, maybe at that initial level, 15 minutes maybe.
So your eye didn't
Somewhere
swell
around
up,
there.
nothing like that? Was there a stinger that you had to scrape out?
I don't recall.
Because we're going to talk about that today too, right? That's the only sting? Experience?
That was the only one at that hive, at that house.
Any other honeybee stings?
Maybe stepping on one in the grass, but I don't.
Okay,
It
but
was
not
nothing very
nothing
recent.
within the last year.
Yeah,
Okay, do you have allergies?
not that I'm aware of, no.
No known allergies. This is important to know. So Bethany, have you ever been stung by a bee?
I have.
So what's the most recent experience?
It was probably a couple years ago. I was at the beach and I felt something in my hair, or I was doing something with my hair, and I actually thought it was something within my hair, and I started going like this, and I actually grabbed the bee, and so it stung me. Right
Oh,
on the
did you
thumb.
see it? Did you see the bee, or you just felt it?
I mean, I saw it when I realized that's what it was, and by the time it
Yeah.
stung me, and then I threw it. I could not tell you what kind of bee it was.
No, but again, no stinger left in the skin.
Nope.
Okay, so what we're going to do today, this is all going to be very important, but we are going to get these following baseline assessments, because David, you mentioned that if we're doing any kind of experiment, and let's face it, this is a very basic backyard beekeeping experiment. Why on earth would we even do it? And it's to tie back into what I said before. A lot of people think they got stung, they feel good, but I'm going to suggest that it's a little more severe than people think. In fact, they should not seek out or celebrate being stung by bees, because over time you can develop a sensitivity, right? So we're going to get it today. We're going to cover the pulse, your respiration, blood pressure. We're going to thermal scan your arm before and after the bee sting, because I think we're going to see some heating up there. We also want to check your pupils and everything, because I want to know if there's any kind of reaction that causes a dilation in either of your eyes. We don't know, but I think it's good. I think they call that pearl something. Okay.
Kind of.
And then the other thing is I need a statement from you saying that we're not in trouble if something goes bad here. You're here of your own free will.
Fred, I am here on my own free will, and nobody is in trouble if things don't work like we'd like them to.
Okay, just in the spirit of good old backyard science. And we're going to take pictures of the bee. Now, what kind of bee would we not want to be stung by? Bees have different jobs in the hive. Nurse bees, for example, they're not going to deliver a lot of venom, I wouldn't think. In fact, they would be the least likely to sting us. What would be one of the bees you could think of based on the jobs in the hive? What would be the one that would be most apt to sting and kind of deliver that venom with a little attitude?
I would think the guard bee.
I agree.
You agree. That's good, because that's exactly right. Because we're going to collect a guard bee today, and we're going to deliver that sting, and everybody's going to see it close up. So you say you're okay, everything's good, you have no allergies, your past experiences did not require any kind of severe reaction.
Correct.
Our biggest concern is anaphylaxis and things like that. Did I pronounce that right, by the way?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. We don't want to have to call out, 911 and stuff, because first of all, the closest people aren't necessarily the best people. Okay.
You're not wrong.
So the employment position of the bee that we're going to use is a guard bee. And we're going to collect that bee. And do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, let's get started with the vitals.
Okay.
In fact, if you would, each thing that you do, if you would read out
Yeah.
loud what the readings are so we can make a comparison.
Yeah.
So first we're going to do the blood pressure.
I might take a couple of these just to kind of get, I mean, unless the first one comes out beautiful,
Okay.
which it could, you always have good blood pressure, so.
Oh, compliment already. What is your normal BP?
I have no idea.
120/60, something like
Probably close.
Probably. Yeah, I'm gonna take it one more time. It was pretty good though.
that.
You're about 107/70.
107
A little
over
low, yeah.
70. That's a little on the low side. Okay. 107. Was that similar on both times?
Yes.
What do those numbers mean? What's the 107 and what's the 70?
So it's your diastolic and your systolic pressures.
So one of those is like when the heart pumps, and the other is when the heart's relaxed. Is that right?
Don't quote
Yeah.
me on that.
No? Okay, just in case
We're
people
editing
ask,
that
'cause
out,
this
yes.
is a good chance.
Um,
Yeah, we can edit in.
Yeah.
Okay, 107
All right,
over
we'll do
70.
Pulse ox. I don't have I can do respirations, I just have to do it manually, but. So his oxygen level is 98% on room air,
Oh, that's good.
and then his pulse is 68.
68 pulse rate, not bad. What's your fitness like? Do you do fitness activities at all?
Zero,
Do you
Fred.
do fitness?
0.
I gave
Okay.
that up.
You gave up. You gave up fitness. Okay.
Can take this off.
And 98%, is that normal? Is that
Yeah.
where it would be?
Yeah, if
you
you're on
were like,
anything
let's
above
say,
90,
if
if you're below 90, we consider that like hypoxemia, meaning like you need air, you need supplemental oxygen.
So what about like a super athlete? What would they be at? Is there anybody that reads 100?
Yeah, I'm sure there's 100. Yeah.
100% oxygen?
I mean, again, don't quote me on that. I don't
Okay.
know.
Check his pupils. Look deep into his eyes.
Do you have a light that I can, like a pin? I didn't think to bring one. I didn't know we were doing that version.
Well,
I could just use my phone, flashlight.
or a regular light?
I could
Is
just
that
use my
good?
flashlight.
Okay. Oh, he's looking through you.
Your pupils are pretty small to begin with.
Okay, but at least you'll know if they change
Look at
on
me
us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they're
I have a
equal.
baseline, yep.
He did have a
They're
response, so.
Equal, yes.
Okay, he's alive.
Equal, round, reactive.
Okay. ERR.
That's your perla.
Pearl.
Pupils equal.
Pu-
Equal.
Pupils
I don't
equal
remember
and
what it stands
reactive
for.
to light.
Yes,
Just guessing.
perla.
Fred's in
There's
PA
two.
too.
I think there's two E's though.
No, I was just an EMT.
Oh.
So I don't know, diddly niddly. Okay. So, and you feel good, you're not stressed, good, good, good. And no allergies, guess what we're gonna do now? Oh, respiration rate. She says she has to count those by looking at your chest rising and falling over a period of time.
For a period of time. I have to
And
remember
don't try to
that.
control it either. Just be natural.
Be natural.
Be natural.
I saw what you did there.
Sorry, I'm just trying to look up. I don't want to have to make you wait the whole freaking minute. There's a way to do it.
Yeah.
It's
Do
like 15 seconds and then multiply by 4, right?
I'm leaving that in.
Don't.
Please do.
This is, I don't do this part of this,
I know you
okay?
don't. I know.
Do you want to really throw her off?
Alright.
Huh?
You
Yeah,
want to really
keep
throw her
talking.
off?
No.
You can do 10 seconds and multiply by 6.
No, let her do the 15.
Or 20 by 3.
Okay, stop talking.
You're about to be
Don't focus
stung
on
by
your
a bee,
breathing.
and she's the only person here that can help you. What do you have?
I have about 16 beats per minute. Or not beats per
16
minute.
respirations per
Respiration
minute?
per minute, yes.
RPMs. So there seems to be a little chemistry between you two. Is there? What's your relationship?
We're married.
You're supposed to, the tone of your voice better go up when you say, we're married. We're married.
We're married.
Okay. Yeah, just so people know, husband and wife team, this is great.
Yes.
And you both actually are into bees, right?
Yeah.
You're going to help David and make
Yes.
sure. That, okay. All right. We're going to end there.
Okay.
Now we're going to get ourselves a bee. There we go.
There was a light. Yep. It's a,
Got it. Okay, so here's the sting.
Yep.
Bethany, be
God.
ready to remove it. Just a
What am I
second.
removing
We
it
want to get in really close.
What do you want me to remove it with?
You can just scrape it with your fingernail.
Okay.
But
You tell me
let's.
when.
David, what do you feel?
There's a sting in, I guess, kind of, again, that warmth.
And we see it pulsing a little bit. And this is what we want to let people know is that getting the stinger out quick is important. So if Bethany, you just scrape across it with your fingernail, draw it towards you, I think, with your fingernail. Keep doing that till you get it out.
Can I pluck it?
Sure. Although usually it's better to scrape it because when you pluck it or grab it, we actually squeeze more venom in.
Can I use those tweezers?
She's taking her time
Yeah.
on purpose.
No, I'm not. It's not coming.
Go ahead. There you go. And it really does have barbs, so it tries to hold on. Okay.
Do you want me to lay it down?
You can lay it down next to it if you want. How you feel, David?
Once it's removed, the pain starts to subside, but there's still a very, very light stinging.
And we're kind of seeing a little red mark building there. All right, so we can take the stinger and put it over on that white towel,
Okay.
if you would. And then it's pretty distinctive where the mark is. Okay. Let's go ahead and get some
Feeling it?
vitals now.
Okay.
See if there's any change, and we are. Do you have
Leave your
a
arm just
stopwatch
like
on
that.
here? I'm gonna
On
do
my
a
phone?
stopwatch over here.
Yeah.
How you feeling, David?
Good.
Good. Not that bad. Guard bee, and by the way, for those who are wondering, whenever a bee stings, it will die.
So we are 112 over 72.
So it's 112 over 72, so we have
Up a little bit.
elevated blood
Try
pressure.
to do it again, like you did last time.
Yeah.
And your at rest blood pressure is up, and we are 1 minute in.
Yeah, 112 over, it was like 74, so yeah, pretty similar.
Do you feel any warming or what sensations?
Just at the
if any?
site.
And we can
Just
see
at
that
the
the site
site
is
it's
getting a
warm.
little red there.
Yep.
Pulse ox is still 98, and pulse is still 69.
Okay,
68,
that's
69.
68, 69,
Yeah.
so unchanged.
Yeah.
Okay. Blood pressure, how about his
Oh,
pupils?
yeah. They're pretty similar. They're still reactive. Equal
Should do that
reactive.
again.
Oh.
Thanks. I'm gonna zoom in on his eyes.
Okay, do you want me to do this one?
Yeah. Okay. Equal and reactive to light,
Yes.
same, unchanged.
Yes, unchanged.
Okay. Now, if his pupils, what would that mean? Like, if they were not equal, or if they slightly dilated? What is that?
If they weren't equal, that's more seen with like
Trauma of some
yeah,
kind?
brain
Okay.
injuries, things like that.
Okay.
As far as being like, pinpoint or wide open, that can happen with kind of like that flight or fight response. That can be one
Okay.
of the things.
So he could be angry and get narrow pupils.
Yeah. That's
Or he
certainly
could
can
really
be
care about something and get dilated pupils, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you've seen frequently from him. Okay. Yeah, you can see it, it's getting that
Yeah.
little circle around
Little
it, pretty
circle, yep.
characteristic. So we're gonna zoom in on that. So nothing very dramatic. So far it's just a bee sting. I wonder how many, do you know the word on how many bee stings your body could take if you were
I have
healthy
no idea.
before your medical emergency? The general rule is 10 bee stings per pound of body weight.
Oh.
And there are a lot of things that people can have problems with, short of that. That means you are a load and go, you're an emergency. So one of the things we want to talk about too, while we're waiting for David to show stronger symptoms, let's talk about beekeeper health in general. We have a heat wave going across the United States and other parts of the world. And often people don't hydrate properly. So we have beekeepers that are passing out, they're getting dizzy. Do you have any advice for beekeepers that are headed out in the heat to work on their bees?
Stay hydrated, drink plenty of fluids throughout
No.
the day.
Now, is there a preferred fluid? Is water the best?
Yes,
It
water
is.
would be the best. Yeah,
Okay.
there are some, electrolyte things or Gatorade, things like that. Those are more used for like extreme scenarios, but water is always the best option.
And it probably doesn't really help if while you're out there starting to feel some symptoms, that's not the time to chug a bunch of water. You need to start hydrating. What's a sign that you're hydrated and ready to go?
If you're hydrated, especially like at that moment when you feel like you're getting hot,
Yeah,
sweat is a good indicator that you are
it's a
hydrated.
good thing. Okay.
If you're not sweating, that's not a good thing because that means you don't have any fluid to expel. So,
Okay. And that's the part I was trying to get to, the fluid to expel. Before
Oh.
someone goes out and engages in heavy activity, it should not be dark.
Right,
'Cause we're
correct.
talking about urine, let's just
Yes.
be honest. And so I used to tell people, you're clear to PT, you're clear to participate. And so it's kind of like that. That's a pretty decent indicator that you're hydrated or not.
absolutely.
And water would be good. Protein drinks might actually stress you out a little, might crank you up.
Sodas, carbonated beverages, those
Yeah,
things can dry
Those
you
don't
out too.
count. How about coffee?
No,
How about beer?
no.
Oh, good, because I don't like beer anyway. Because those are good to know, and that is a very serious thing. So often in the heat, and what we would like to tell people is, if you're going out to work in your bee yard, a lot of beekeepers are older people, they're retired. We don't want them to go out there alone on a hot day. You're exerting yourself, you might be lifting boxes and things like that. At least let somebody know where you are, and know the symptoms, get into the shade and get really dry. There's a bee suit that we'll mention. It's by Guardian Bee Apparel, and it has a zippered veil on it, and the reason the guy did that was because he suffered heat stress and didn't want to get out of his full bee suit while he was in the bee yard, so unzipping your veil just enough. I think if somebody just cut a hole in their veil and put a little flap over it with Velcro, they can stick a straw in there and drink as they go. Another thing is there's those, how did you stay hydrated in the Army? Did you have those camelbacks, those harnesses that you wore?
Yeah.
Yep. And did you have the little
Camel
tube that
bags.
came around that
I
you
didn't
drank
use
out
those
of?
real often.
But you had them?
We had them.
And what was the capacity of those? Like
2 quarts.
2 quarts?
Somewhere in there.
How many
somewhere in that
ounces
range.
is in 2 quarts?
Oh, you want me to go
No,
ahead?
that's you.
Is it
Go ahead.
64?
It's 64.
Is
There's
it?
4 quarts per gallon.
Okay,
Yeah,
64
gallons.
ounces. And
128.
because where I was, it was like 113, 115 in the shade, and we would drink all of those and never go to the bathroom
Right.
once. So you know you needed it. That is your cooling system. Which, interestingly enough, is also the cooling system for the bees. Painting water around through evaporation, they're cooling down. Bethany mentioned that sweating is a good thing. You don't want to be, what is the term when they're completely dry, when you're not perspiring at all? There's diaphoretic, which is
Diaphoretic
really
is
wet,
sweating, yeah.
right, really sweaty. But if you're dry, that's actually an alarm, right? That's a concern.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want people to stay safe. How you feeling now? Ooh, it's getting red around.
Yeah, I can see the redness.
Okay. And how many minutes in are we? We're gonna stop the recorders. Oh, that's good.
That actually.
I'll get as close as I can. Now, is the site feeling firm or warmer, or
It's warm.
how you feel? Okay. Yeah, it's bumping up there pretty good.
Good.
Oh yeah, the redness. I want to get that too.
Your throat's not closing in or anything. Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Been waiting
So now
for
hold the
you to
light
ask.
higher a little bit. I want to see that redness. Yep, right there. Yep, that's pretty normal, and it's localized. That's the concern we have, is if the swelling or the reaction to the sting starts showing up in other parts of your body, those would be concerns. Okay.
So that's what happened to my head, but I couldn't see it because I have hair.
Because you've never seen your face.
I've never seen it, yeah,
No one has ever seen their face.
ever. I wonder if it would be raised like that if you pulled it out in the direction that it went in first, instead of like, stretching my skin repeatedly.
You know
while I
what?
was in there.
What's the matter?
I'm wondering if it would be raised like it is if
If I'd
It
gotten
really,
the
like,
stinger
gently
out
pulled out.
correctly.
see it's that red spot right there. Just kidding.
It is though.
So it's not as dramatic as I thought it would be, though.
Yeah.
It's that light spot
I
right there.
know.
So while we're waiting for David's vitals to shift, we're approaching our 20-minute mark. Would you mind filling us in just a little bit on what you know about what the risk levels are for people to get stung by bees or wasps? Or
So just in general, there are different types of reactions to bee stings. And these are not honeybee specific, they're just generic bee stings. An uncomplicated local reaction, which is pretty much what he is experiencing right now, is just swelling in that area, 1 to 5 centimeters in diameter, and it usually occurs within a couple of minutes of being stung, and it goes away within a couple of hours. It can last like 1 to 2 days, but for the most part, it's pretty quick, easy, again, uncomplicated. So those are the majority of reactions to bee stings. There are larger reactions, like you had mentioned earlier, where it can spread to other areas. So if you have a bee sting on your arm, it can spread up into the entire arm or cause anaphylaxis, like you were discussing. If it doesn't cause like throat swelling or severe reactions, they call those just a large localized reaction. Patients who have, or people who have large local reactions are not necessarily more prone to being anaphylactic, but if they do feel uncomfortable about those reactions, healthcare providers can give them like an EpiPen to have on hand for those, but it's not absolutely mandatory.
At what point do you think someone should seek professional medical help?
I think if you get those large reactions, I think it's a good idea to have at least someone examine you and make sure that they aren't missing something, like if your throat, if you don't know, you would know, I would think, if your throat were closing off, but if it were kind of getting to that area, I would want to seek help first, earlier rather than later.
So are some states showing more statistics where people have encountered bees and had to be hospitalized, or are you familiar at
I
all
don't
with
know that.
hospitalizations nationally or anything?
No.
No.
I think I had read that people with only like 7% of people get the large localized reactions where it can like spread to other areas. And I think it's only 0.3 to 3% have anaphylaxis.
So one of the most common things that people search for and want to know about after they've been stung, should they do anything? Is it just going to pass on its own? Is there a topical treatment? Should they sanitize? Because we talked about this before. We suggested sanitizing his skin before the bee stung him, but then your response was a practical one, that when people are in the bee yard, they're not going to be cleaning up before they get a bee sting. So the risk of infection, like, very low?
Risk of infection in honeybees specifically is very low.
Okay.
It's more common in wasps or like forage, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's more common in wasps because they tend to go to food, like random food sources, and they can have more bacteria than,
Oh,
than a
that
honeybee.
makes sense, sure, because a honeybee is like a vegan wasp,
Exactly.
and they're only on flowers, and I hadn't thought about what you just said. We know wasps will feed on carrion. They will predate on and chew the flesh of dead and dying animals, and this is the first time I thought about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that makes sense. So if you were cleaning up, let's say you got stung by a wasp, let's talk about that. What should they clean up the wound with that you recommend?
I don't even know that I would recommend necessarily cleaning up the wound, but just simple water and soap would be fine.
Water and soap.
But I think the risk of infection, even from those type, is very rare and very minor.
Okay, well, thanks for that, that's helpful. Now we're at over 20 minutes, let's check the vitals again.
Okay. (104/72).
So he's going down already, 104/72. In fact, you're lower than your baseline, with the exception of the at-rest pressure. Okay, so we don't need to check pupils, he was unchanged before. Respiration, he's calm. The only thing that even elevated, we have a slight raise in the surface temperature of his skin. So it went from the 80s to 90s, so even that, although it feels warm to the touch, and it also probably feels a little firm
Sensation
around
is-
it, right? But nothing up the arm, no,
No, it's localized.
Yep.
Completely.
okay.
So in these type of reactions, he's talking, so his heart rate's up a little bit, but these type of reactions, you were asking about treatment and things for that. Like you said earlier, getting those stingers out earlier is best, because then not as much venom will get in there. But most people don't know until it's too late for that. But still removing the stinger in general is a good idea. And cold compresses, and then if it's really swollen, elevating, especially if it's on like a limb, elevating will help to get the swelling down.
Okay. And what about the itching that starts to show up when you're healing?
Itching would be more of like a topical antihistamine or prednisone, oral prednisone or Benadryl, things like that.
Okay.
I got flies, sorry.
And pulse ox
I'm trying
was?
not to. Pulse ox was good, 98 still, and pulse was still 68.
Uneventful.
Unchanged.
Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for coming and doing that. And David, I want to thank you for participating. I should point out, we had David take his ring off. This is something that when, especially new beekeepers, you don't know what your reaction level is going to be, what kind of swelling you might have. Take jewelry off that would restrict blood flow to your phalanges, to your fingers, right? Because we don't want to cut that off. We know that that band of metal probably cost a pretty penny. So, don't do that. Any closing words of advice? Any closing observations, David, that you'd like to share? Words of wisdom for beekeepers in the backyard.
None specifically related to the event, but as always, I appreciate you having us here, and we're looking forward to the usual tour.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, Bethany, any closing statements?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
here, you guys. Also, for those who are watching, if you go down in the video description, you'll see a link to the American Society for Apitherapy, and you can find out exactly what kind of treatments are for people who intentionally want to be stung, where you should be stung, and how often, under the supervision of medical doctors. Thanks again. So I hope you found that enjoyable. I want to thank David and Bethany for their time, and David, of course, for lending us his arm to be stung by a bee. We did get a follow-up the day later. David did report that his arm swelled up quite a bit between the wrist and the elbow. Other than that, it was completely gone by the third day. So the bottom line is, if you're stung by a bee and you're normally healthy and not allergic to bee stings, the results will be minimal. So thanks for being here today. Hope you learned something new, and I appreciate it.